Hi, Andrew here. So continuing our series on defensive pistol ammunition gel testing, today let's take a look at Remington 158 grain semi-jacketed hollow point. We're going to shoot it from my wife's Smith Wesson Model 13L 4-inch revolver. It's kind of an old school load, but I think Remington is using a little bit more modern metallurgy in the construction of the bullet. In any case, lots of people swear by the semi-jacketed 158 grain, 125 grain, somewhere in that neighborhood in the 357 Magnum. Let's see how it does. One, 3, 1, 4. 1, 3, 1, 6. Okay, so it looks like it still did pretty good. There's a fair amount of fragmentation, mostly along here, kind of in the middle of both tracks. Looks like there's very, very small fragments around the area where the temporary stretch cavity is, but the big ones dropped right in the middle, and they didn't deviate very far from the primary track. Penetration, 19.5 inches and 21.7 inches. Obviously, the weight retention isn't going to be perfect. We'll get some measurements on expansion and weight retention when we get home, but it does look like it kept most of the bullet. Okay, not bad. It did fragment a fair amount, but the penetration was, well, more than adequate. The penetration did go over the 18-inch FBI max. However, I personally don't think that that's that big of a deal. I know you've heard me mention it before. It matters a lot more for law enforcement officers who are more likely to have to shoot people in a crowded area. But so far as I know, I've never heard of a single instance of a justified self-defense shooting performed by an average citizen wherein the bullet passed through the bad guy, not a miss, and struck an innocent bystander. If you know of one, by all means, post it below. But I think that the odds of that happening are pretty low for us regular folk. In any case, there was some fragmentation, and that's usually not desirable in pistol rounds. Fragmentation in a pistol round tends to stay fairly close to the primary track, not complicate the wound to any substantive degree, so it's not usually desirable. And of course, fragmentation reduces the weight of the main projectile, which can reduce penetration. However, in this case, that's obviously not a problem. So the main reasons that fragmentation are not desirable are made up for the fact that it did get deep enough. So as far as the fragmentation goes, pretty much a wash. Let's see how it does against heavy clothing. Okay, it looks pretty much the same, although, if anything, may have shed some of these fragments a little bit earlier in the track. Otherwise, the expansion occurred pretty near immediately, just like with the Bear Gel. This top shot, the first one I think, kind of curved a bit and left the side of the block right here at 16.9 inches. But the second shot stayed in the block, penetrated to 21.3 inches. All right, that's pretty impressive. And one of the things that I like a lot about 357, 10 millimeter, and other bullets that are moving along pretty well is that extra velocity tends to make up for a lot of things. In this case, it just didn't care about that heavy clothing. The results were almost the same as in the Bear Gel test. They looked almost indistinguishable. Yes, again, a little bit deeper penetration than is strictly perfect, but not a terrible thing, in my opinion, for regular self-defense. And if you're choosing this load for defense on the trail, that doesn't hurt at all. In fact, deep penetration is probably a good thing for defense against larger critters. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you want to tell me about how shiny this shirt is, let me know. Stay tuned. We're going to take a look at this same load next week, fired from a 16-inch carbine. That ought to be exciting. In the meantime, if you have the time, head on over to ProxyBid, take a look at some of their gun auctions. Helping our sponsors helps us. We appreciate your support. Have a great day.